The morning of my father's funeral tasted like metal. I stood on the church steps of St. Helena's Chapel, holding a small bouquet because it was all I could afford after 3 years of caregiving. Before I could take another breath, my mother stepped in front of me, heels sharp against the stone. "Turn around, Amelia," Vivian said, voice cutting clean through the cold air. "You are not welcome here." My fingers tightened around the bouquet. "I paid for the service," I whispered. "I organized everything." She lifted her chin. "And you are no longer part of this family. Just like Daniel." Then she pivoted to the growing crowd. "My daughter is dead to us. Please respect our privacy." A ripple passed through the mourners. Some looked away. A few looked at me with pity. I wanted to disappear or scream or collapse anything but stand there frozen like someone watching her own erasure in real time. A sleek silver Audi slid into the parking lot. Here came Act 2 of the spectacle. My brother, Lucas, stepped out in a tailored navy suit, sunglasses still on though the sky was overcast. He glanced at me, smirked, and walked straight to Vivian. "Mom," he said, embracing her. "You look incredible. Dad would be proud you held everything together." Held everything together. My chest tightened. Mom turned toward me just long enough to sneer. "Your brother has a memorial speech prepared. Very professional. A real legacy moment." Before I could respond, a powder blue Porsche rolled in. My sister Brianna hopped out, phone already raised like a weapon. "Hey, beautiful souls," she chirped into the camera. "Today, we say goodbye to Daddy. Grief is transformation. Use code BRI20 for my self-love essential oils." She ended the clip with a tear that appeared like she'd practiced it. Vivian hurried to her, hugging her dramatically. "Sweetheart, you came. Daddy would be so grateful." "Of course," Bree said, ignoring me completely. Content is content. Behind them. I caught movement across the street. A familiar car. A familiar face. Marcus Ellington, my father's lawyer, sat in the driver's seat, watching everything. Our eyes met. He tapped gently on his watch twice, then nodded once. A signal. Not a comforting one. I stepped back instinctively. That was when 2 off-duty police officers approached. "Ma'am," one said softly, "we were hired for security today. We're being asked to escort you off the property." Hired by who I already knew the answer. "Your mother," he murmured. "I'm sorry." Behind them. Javier Reyes, my father's foreman for 18 years, stormed toward Vivian. "This is wrong." "Vivian," he snapped. "Amelia cared for Daniel every night. You did nothing." Vivian's expression hardened. "You do not understand our family. Stay out of it." The officers guided me toward the sidewalk. My old sedan sat there, paint peeling. As exhausted as I felt, I looked back only once. Lucas straightened his tie. Bree checked her angles. Vivian wiped a tear that evaporated the second the audience disappeared. I stood in the park across from the church, heart shaking. The funeral bells began to toll, bells I had arranged and paid for. I swallowed, trying to breathe. If you are reading this with your coffee or lying awake tonight, listening along, stay with me. There is more to this story than humiliation. Much more, and none of them had any idea that my father, even in death, was about to speak louder than all of them combined. I stayed on the park bench long after the bells stopped ringing. The cold air stung my face, but it was nothing compared to the memories dragging me backward, memories I tried to bury under exhaustion and responsibility for 3 long years. It began the night I moved home. Dad sat at the kitchen table, hands trembling as he read his diagnosis. Stage 4 stomach cancer, a sentence wrapped in medical language. I remember sliding the papers away and squeezing his hand. "I'm here," I told him. "Whatever happens, I'm here." He nodded once, jaw tight. Amelia, this isn't your burden. It is if you're the one carrying it. When Mom entered the room, she didn't look at either of us. This timing is awful, she said. I just paid for the new living room set. Dad's voice cracked. Vivian. I have cancer. She blinked slowly, as though inconvenienced. I heard you, but we cannot let this turn the house into a hospital. That was the beginning, within days. The dining room became a care station. IV stands, pill organizers, boxes of gloves, and every day, Vivian walked past it with the same disgusted sigh. 3 months later came the night the three of us would never forget. Though only one of us tries to pretend it did not happen. It was almost 2 a.m. when Dad collapsed in the hallway. I knelt beside him, shaking. Dad, stay with me. Please, stay with me. Vivian emerged from her bedroom, robe perfectly tied. What now? He can't breathe, I said. Help me get him to the car. I have a charity brunch at 8. She snapped. Call an ambulance. That is what they are for. He does not have time. I cried. Help me. She stepped back, arms crossed. This is your responsibility. You insisted on staying. I carried him myself, half dragging, half lifting, and got him into my old sedan. Rain hammered the windshield as I drove, barefoot, crying so hard the road blurred. Dad reached for my hand. I am sorry she is your mother, he whispered. I squeezed back until his breathing steadied. The next morning, while I slept on a plastic hospital chair, Vivian posted a photo of her brunch outfit with the caption, "Self-care is sacred. Protect your peace." I never told Dad about that part. I did not need to. He already knew everything he needed to know. The wind shifted, carrying the last notes of the funeral hymn across the street. I kept my eyes on the church doors until they closed. Then, Marcus Ellington crossed the road with the steady, deliberate steps of a man who had watched too much and waited long enough. He sat beside me on the bench, leaving just enough space to be respectful. Amelia, he said quietly, your father trusted you more than anyone realizes. My throat tightened. He trusted everyone more than her. I murmured. Marcus shook his head. No, he saw everything. He understood far earlier than any of us. I looked at him, then really looked. He wasn't here to offer condolences. He was here because something was already in motion. What are you not telling me? I asked. Marcus clasped his hands. 2 months before Daniel passed, he called me for a private meeting. No Vivian, no Lucas, no Brianna. That is impossible, I whispered. He could barely walk by then. He insisted, Marcus said, and he was clear. He wanted a new will, a separate trust, oversight safeguards, witnesses he knew he could rely on. My heart pounded. He changed everything. Yes, completely. Marcus reached into his coat and handed me a folded page. This is not the will, but it is the doctor's letter certifying Daniel's mental capacity at the time he signed it. I stared at the paper. The date hit me like a blow exactly 6 weeks before he died. Marcus continued. Your father was deliberate. He chose witnesses carefully. Javier, Linda Shaw, and Dr. Hale. People Vivian could not manipulate. My pulse raced. Why? What was he afraid of? Marcus looked toward the church steps where Vivian now posed with sympathetic guests, dabbing fake tears. He had already seen enough. He hired a private investigator 6 months before he passed. I stared at him. A private investigator. Yes, Marcus said softly. Daniel told me. I need proof, Marcus, not suspicion. And he was right. He opened his briefcase and slid out a sealed manila envelope. Everything is in here: bank statements, phone logs, pharmacy discrepancies, security footage from the hallway camera. The envelope felt heavier than its size. Why give this to me? Because, Marcus said, voice low. Tomorrow is the reading of the will. Vivian believes she is about to divide Daniel's empire. She invited the entire family to watch her coronation. A faint tremor went through me. She thinks she won. She thinks she already buried you. Marcus leaned forward. But your father did not. I gripped the envelope. My hands shook, but my voice steadied. What do I do? Show up, Marcus said. Let them underestimate you. Let them laugh. Let them celebrate. He stood. Because when the truth hits the table, Amelia, they will not be ready for what your father left behind. He walked away, leaving me with the envelope and the growing certainty that Daniel Calder was not done speaking, not even from the grave. The next morning, I sat across from Marcus Ellington in a quiet conference room at his office. The blinds were drawn, the air tight with something heavier than silence. A thick stack of files lay between us. Marcus nodded. We start when you are ready. I opened the first folder. My brother's name stared back at me in printed black letters. Lucas Calder, Investment Records. Inside were screenshots from the company's internal financial system, draft transfers, aborted attempts, login timestamps. I frowned. He tried to move money $68,000. Marcus said, drafted but never completed. He used an old consulting login Daniel forgot to deactivate. My stomach clenched. He told everyone he visited Dad in the hospital that night. Marcus tapped a page. This timestamp shows he was in his apartment. The system traced the login to his own Wi-Fi. I remembered Lucas bragging over dinner years ago, I always land on my feet. Amelia. Smart people do. Back then I thought he was joking. Marcus pulled another document. The private investigator interviewed Daniel after discovering the draft. Your father said. I needed to know if he would steal from me before I died. I exhaled slowly. And he did. Marcus didn't respond. He didn't need to. He opened the next folder. Brianna Calder, Pharmacy Discrepancies. The first page listed refill schedules. The second listed what actually arrived at the house. The numbers didn't match. She said the pharmacy always messed up. I whispered. Marcus passed me Zelle receipts. She sold his pain medication to her personal trainer and a fitness group chat. 36 transactions in 4 months. I gripped the table. He was in agony. Some nights he would shake so hard I had to hold him down until the meds kicked in. Marcus's voice softened. He documented every missing pill. Amelia. Every one. My hands trembled as I flipped to the last page screenshots of Brianna's messages. Got more tonight. Stronger dose. Bring cash. I closed the folder. Breath unsteady. She filmed inspirational videos in his bedroom while selling the meds that were supposed to help him. She used his illness as content, Marcus said. Daniel saw it all. He slid the final folder toward me. Vivian Calder, Financial Audit. Inside were reimbursement forms, credit card statements, and transfers to an offshore account in Nassau. $312,000. Marcus said, over 14 months. She told me she was paying for wellness retreats. I murmured. Some of that money funded her trips. Marcus replied. But most funded Matteo Rossi. He pressed a button on his laptop. An audio file played Vivian's voice, sharp and low. The old man won't last. As soon as Lucas pretends to run the company, we sell everything. Amelia will not get a cent. Matteo and I will be in Monaco by spring. Marcus stopped the recording. My chest felt bruised. She planned it all. Daniel knew, he said gently. And he wanted you to see this before tomorrow. I stared at the folders, Lucas's betrayal, Brianna's greed, Vivian's cruelty, neatly documented like exhibits in a trial. I whispered, he was dying, and they circled him like vultures. Marcus nodded without pity or apology, and he wanted the truth laid bare. I closed the final folder and placed my hand on top of the stack. Then tomorrow, I said quietly, they will hear his voice. Marcus slid a final envelope toward me. heavier than the others. "This," he said, "is what Daniel insisted I show you before the reading." My throat tightened. "More evidence." "Not evidence," Marcus replied. "Intent?" He opened his laptop and pulled up a video file. The screen flickered, then steadied on my father sitting upright in his favorite armchair, a blanket over his lap. He looked thin, but his eyes, those steady, deliberate eyes, were clear. "Amelia," he began, voice hoarse but strong enough to cut through me. "If you are watching this, it means my time has ended." I gripped the edge of the table. "I want to speak plainly," he continued. "Before I got sick, I spent too much of my life hoping people would change, hoping love would be enough to pull them toward decency." He paused, breathing shallow. "But hope without truth is just denial. Off-screen." I heard Marcus's voice from the original recording. "Daniel, you do not have to explain this." "Yes, I do," my father said firmly. "My family deserves the truth, even if they do not want it." He leaned forward slightly, as if speaking directly across time. "I hired a private investigator because something felt wrong. I could not confront them without proof, and I needed to know, with certainty, who stood by me out of love, and who stood by me out of greed." The words struck like a match. "Amelia," he said, "you passed every test life threw at you. You carried me when I could not walk. You fed me when my hands shook. You stayed awake when the rest of them vanished. You turned down a promotion, gave up relationships, and spent money you did not have." His eyes softened. "You gave and gave and gave. Not for inheritance, not for recognition, for love." I blinked hard, trying to breathe evenly. "And the others," he continued, his tone cooling, "showed their truth as well. Lucas sought what he could take. Brianna sought what she could sell. And Vivian," he swallowed, "she sought her escape long before I stopped breathing." He inhaled slowly. "The new will is not revenge. It is alignment. It ensures that those who built nothing receive nothing, and that the one who built everything that mattered, love, loyalty, dignity, receives what she deserves." He lifted a trembling hand, my father's familiar gesture asking for trust. "Stand tall tomorrow. Amelia, let them underestimate you. Let them laugh. Let them choke on their own certainty." His voice thinned, but he finished with a strength I had not heard in months. "You were the only one who stayed. And now the truth will stay with you." The video ended. Marcus closed the laptop gently. I pressed my palm to my chest, steadying my heartbeat. My father's voice still echoed inside me, louder than any humiliation, louder than the funeral bells. Tomorrow, they would hear him too. I arrived 15 minutes late, just as Marcus instructed. I wore an old black dress, my hair pulled back without care, the picture of defeat. When I stepped into the conference room, every head turned. Vivian's smile sharpened. "How gracious of you to join us." "Amelia," Lucas didn't bother hiding his smirk. "Thought she'd skip." "Honestly," Brianna angled her phone, whispering, "Remember, beautiful souls, legal stuff is so boring." Marcus gestured to the chair in the corner. "Amelia, take your seat. We are about to begin." The room was full 3 estate attorneys, a court reporter, 2 security guards near the door, and a video camera recording everything. Lucas leaned back like he owned the place. Bree applied lip gloss. Vivian straightened her jacket and nodded to Marcus as if granting permission. He ignored her entirely. "Before we begin, I need confirmation that everyone is present voluntarily. This session will be recorded. Just read the will." "Marcus," Vivian snapped. "We all know what Daniel wanted." Marcus shuffled the papers slowly. "Indeed we do. Let us proceed." He read the heading aloud, "Last Will and Testament of Daniel Raymond Calder, executed 8 weeks prior to his passing." Vivian's hand froze mid-air. 8 weeks. Lucas frowned. Dad was barely conscious then. Marcus didn't blink. He was fully conscious. Witnessed by Dr. Hale, Linda Shaw, and Javier Reyes, a muscle jumped in Vivian's jaw. Marcus continued, tone calm but cutting. To my son, Lucas Calder. Lucas sat up straighter. Vivian smiled. Bree leaned forward. I leave the sum of $5 in single bills so that he may finally experience holding money he earned. The room cracked in half. Lucas slammed his fist on the table. That is a joke. Marcus flipped the page. To my daughter, Brianna Calder. Brianna tossed her hair, adjusting her sweater to look camera ready. I leave 1 glass jar of pennies, 1 for each day she did not visit me during my final year. Brianna sputtered. He must have been confused. Marcus raised a hand. There is more. To my wife, Vivian Calder. Vivian lifted her chin, prepared for a grand inheritance. I leave the unfinished casita behind our home, so that she may have a space as cold as the one she offered me. The room went silent. You lying snake, Vivian hissed. Daniel would never. Marcus turned a page. All of these bequests are conditional. They are bound by a morality clause. Anyone proven to have acted against Daniel's interests forfeits everything. Security stepped forward. The court reporter's fingers flew. Lucas snarled, conditional. On what? Marcus opened a laptop. Let us begin with you. He played the footage timestamps, login records, screenshots of the $68,000 draft transfer. Red-faced, Lucas shouted. That was to help manage the business. From your apartment at midnight, Marcus asked, using a login Daniel rescinded 2 years ago. The next file, Brianna's Zelle transactions, chat logs, pharmacy discrepancies. Her voice cracked. I was overwhelmed. You sold his pain medication, Marcus said. For profit. Then came Vivian's turn. Marcus played the recording, her voice whispering to Matteo Rossi. The old man will not last. Lucas pretends to run it. We sell everything. Amelia will not get a cent. Vivian lunged for the laptop. That was taken out of context. Marcus replied, is unnecessary when the words are clear. He closed the computer. Having failed the morality clause, Marcus said, your secondary distributions activate. He lifted the final sheet. To my daughter, Amelia Calder. I leave the following 78% ownership of Calder & Sons Construction, the entirety of Seaview Commons Apartments, generating approximately $19,800 monthly. My personal investment portfolio, valued at roughly $1,600,000, the family home, and all classic vehicles, including the 1968 Mustang. Lucas rose from his chair so fast it toppled. Over my dead body, security caught him by the arms. Brianna burst into tears. Amelia, please. Vivian slammed her palm on the table. We will contest this. Marcus smiled faintly. The will includes a no contest clause. If you challenge and lose, you forfeit even your symbolic gifts. Vivian staggered back. Breath uneven. You cannot do this. I did nothing. Marcus replied. Daniel did. I finally lifted my eyes, and for the first time, none of them looked at me like the disposable daughter. They looked at me like the woman my father knew I would have to become. The moment security escorted them out, the room felt strangely hollow, not peaceful, just emptied of the arrogance that had been sucking the air from it. Lucas was the first to break once we reached the hallway. His voice cracked. This is not over. Amelia, I will drag you through court. Marcus stepped between us. You would lose, and the district attorney now has your financial records. Lucas's face drained. You gave them. I followed Daniel's instructions. Marcus replied. Your actions did the rest. Brianna hovered behind him, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Amelia, we are sisters. You would not really let us walk away with nothing. I met her eyes. You sold his medication. She flinched like I had struck her. I was desperate. Influencing costs money. You do not understand the pressure. I understood his pain. I said quietly, "That was enough." She pressed a shaking hand to her mouth and stumbled after Lucas. Vivian emerged last, moving slowly, as if the truth had aged her in minutes. She stopped a few feet from me. "You think this makes you powerful?" she whispered. "No," I said. "Just honest." Her lips trembled with something like fury or fear. "Daniel always favored you. Even now, he curses this family from the grave." Marcus spoke calmly. "Mrs. Calder, the morality clause was your undoing, not Daniel, and not Amelia." Vivian's gaze hardened. "You will regret this." She raised her chin, but her voice broke on the last word. "All of you." Security escorted her toward the elevator. She did not look back. Marcus turned to me. "You handled yourself with dignity." I exhaled slowly. My father guided me. His expression softened. "Then trust what he built. Tomorrow, the world will know the truth." And as we stepped out of the building, the first notifications already lit up my phone. The story was spreading fast. The next morning, I stood outside the Calder & Sons construction office gripping my father's old key card. My hands trembled not from fear, but from the weight of finally stepping into a place he'd spent his life building. When I walked in, every conversation in the lobby stopped. Dozens of faces turned toward me, some cautious, some hopeful. Javier stepped forward first. "Boss," he said, voice steady. "We have been waiting. Do not call me that," I murmured. He shook his head. "Daniel told us months ago. When the time comes, Amelia will lead. We knew before you did." Behind him, a group of project managers and crew supervisors gathered. Linda Shaw approached, clutching a thick binder. "Your father kept records of every suggestion you ever made," she said. "He put them into practice. You have already been running half this company." I blinked. "I was just helping." "No," Linda replied softly. "You were steering." Before I could respond, a man in a gray suit stepped forward. Tom Mercer, head of client operations. His jaw was tight. "Amelia," he began carefully. "One of our biggest clients, the Kensington Pediatric Renovation, called this morning. They are reconsidering the contract. They said they do not know what to make of the article. Of course, the Tribune piece had exploded overnight. Love versus greed. The Calder legacy exposed. Brianna's follower count dropping by tens of thousands. Lucas suspended pending review. Vivian trending for all the wrong reasons." I steadied my breath. "Set up a call," I said. "Right now." Tom hesitated. "Are you sure you want to handle it personally?" Javier answered for me. "She can handle more than any of us." Minutes later, the speakerphone crackled. A woman's voice came through. "Ms. Calder, we are concerned about instability in leadership. This project requires reliability." I leaned forward. "You will have it. The men and women who built this company are still here. My father trusted them, and he trusted me. If you let us finish what he started, we will exceed every expectation." Silence stretched. Then the woman spoke again. "Very well. We proceed." When the line clicked off, the room exhaled. Javier grinned. Daniel would have been proud. I swallowed the tightness in my throat. "We are not done. There is more to fix." Linda handed me another folder. "Then let us begin." "Amelia, the company is yours now." The words did not frighten me. They anchored me exactly the way my father intended. A week later, I drove my father's 1968 Mustang along the Rhode Island coast, the sea wind pushing through the open windows. The glove compartment creaked, the same way it had every time Dad opened it for decades. This time, though, something waited inside an envelope with my name written in his careful handwriting. I pulled over and slid it out. Inside was a single deed. Wickford Cove, oceanfront property, owned by Daniel Calder, I whispered. You kept this secret. At that moment, the passenger door opened. Javier stepped out of his truck behind me, carrying 2 coffees. Linda told me you came out here, he said. Thought you might need this. I held up the deed. He bought it when he proposed to Vivian, before she turned into someone else. Javier nodded gently. He wanted something pure for you, something untouched. I stared at the little cottage in front of us, weathered, quiet, waiting. He wrote a note, I said, showing him the paper. My father's words were short, shaky, but unmistakably him. Turn this place into what you wished someone had built for us. A refuge, a chance to breathe. I swallowed. He wanted caregivers to come here, people who are drowning the way I was. Javier's voice softened. Then we build it right. We walked toward the cottage together. The porch groaned under our steps. The windows fogged with sea salt. It needed repairs many. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt something warm, like the echo of my father's laugh on an old Sunday morning. I whispered into the empty room, I will make this a sanctuary. Dad, I promise. And standing beside me, Javier nodded. We all will. 1 month after the will reading, I walked the familiar path to my father's grave. The grass had grown in, soft around the stone. I set fresh tulips there and sat on the bench he once told me he picked for the days we still needed to talk. Dad, I said softly, everything is changing. Footsteps crunched behind me. A young woman approached, clutching a small certificate. Ms. Calder. I hope I am not interrupting. Her face tugged at a memory the nurse's aide from Dad's first hospital stay. I wanted to show you this, she said, holding out her diploma. Your father paid for my nursing program. He told me not to tell you until after he was gone. Emotion tightened my throat. He believed in people. He believed in you, she said. I went into elder care because of what I saw you do. When she left, I turned back to the grave. Lucas works at a rental car counter now. Brianna is selling vitamins on social media. Vivian. I exhaled. She is living in the unfinished casita. Winter is coming. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Vivian wants one of Daniel's coats. Says the nights are freezing. I typed back, give her the coat with the torn pockets. She always said he could never hold on to money. As I stood, wind brushed over the stone like a quiet nod. I looked toward the Mustang waiting in the parking lot. The life he left ready for me to keep building. And if you are still here, listening to this journey unfold, thank you. Stories like ours matter more when someone chooses to hear them. If you want to follow the next chapter of this legacy, stay with me. There is more to tell.